The uprising among underdogs continues in the campaigns for president. What do the Wisconsin upsets mean for the frontrunners? We're also looking at the increasingly nasty tone among Democrats. Plus,
now we must work together to create a community that has the conditions, resources, and offerings to permit them, their families, and future generations to live well right here in Jacksonville.
The nation's #1 doctor encouraging the Jacksonville mayor's goal to be #1 when it comes to health. But there's a long way to go from the bottom third in the state on This Week in Jacksonville. And thank you for joining us on This Week in Jacksonville. We are a little more than a week away from the next presidential primary. This one in New York. We'll be talking with our News4Jax political analyst Jennifer Carroll a little later on in the program. But first, Mayor Lenny Curry is launching an initiative aimed at making Jacksonville a healthier place to live. Now, it's based on a plan first thought up by a group of local students. The initiative is called Journey to One, and it is all about getting people across our city both mentally and physically fit.
With the Mission 1 Million Weight Loss Challenge, we're challenging the entire city to lose 1 million pounds.
That's just one of the challenges Mayor Lenny Curry issued to people across Jacksonville Thursday. The student-led I'm a Star Foundation came up with the idea, which attracted the attention of U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy. He met with the students on a recent trip to our nation's capital.
But something really stood out about these students. And what stood out was their commitment, their passion, and their dedication to ensuring that their friends and fellow students had a fair shot at leading a healthier life.
Health rankings News4Jax first told you about last month show Duval County places 48th out of 67 Florida counties in terms of overall health.
That's not a ranking that I want for our city. I want us to be #1.
Mayor Curry says he wants every person in every zip code to have the opportunity to live well. He wants citizens to make better choices when it comes to exercise, weight management, disease prevention, and mental well-being. He's challenging every person in Jacksonville to walk 26.2 miles per month. To help, the mayor's office will be hosting walks at parks around the county. Another goal, making sure everyone is aware of their health.
We're encouraging citizens to know their numbers to help stave off cardiovascular diseases by getting blood pressure screenings at their neighborhood fire stations.
Surgeon General Murthy hopes Jacksonville is just the beginning.
And I tell you that as I travel around our great nation, I realize that we need more examples. I realize that our fellow Americans are hungry for inspiration. And you can be that source of inspiration.
Another part of this plan focuses on environmental changes. That includes fighting blight, so people will have renewed pride in their neighborhoods and will want to go outside. Also, there's a push to bring fresh farm markets to areas that are considered food deserts. Those are places where it's really hard to find healthy and affordable foods. So joining us now to talk more about the mayor's initiative is Dr. Sunil Joshi, the president of the Duval County Medical Society, and also Michelle McCormick. She is the director of the operation for the Medical Society Foundation. We appreciate you both being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
We'll start with you, Dr. Joshi. Let's talk about the idea of this initiative. Where did it come from, and what are your thoughts about it?
Well, you know, initially the reason that we as the Medical Society even went to the mayor's office is because we had been seeing a disturbing trend with the county health rankings. You know, we were 45th last year, 48th this year, and moving down the rankings. And we felt like we needed to do something about it. A lot of times here, people complain, and we wanted to be proactive and actually make a difference. And so looking at it, we realized that adult obesity is one of those things that can be changed relatively quickly, as opposed to some of the other factors that are in the rankings. And if we can work on that and work on physical inactivity, we can make a difference.
Yeah, let's talk about some of those factors that led to Jacksonville having such a low ranking. Again, 48 out of 67. We'll take a look at those numbers there. You know, Jacksonville and Duval County specifically, 48th out of 67 Florida counties. The top factor, premature death rate. And Jacksonville has deaths that could have been prevented. And we're also told that the quality of life is also a big issue. Were you, either of you, surprised at the low scores that Jacksonville has come in at?
Well, having just come into this environment and into this with Dr. Joshi and the whole entire Duval County Medical Society staff, it was shocking to me that we moved down. We went the opposite direction. And apparently there are so many different numbers and things that are involved, infrastructure, health, food deserts, all that combines to make that number worse than it was in 2015.
And I think one thing that is important in that graphic you showed was the premature death rate. Okay, so what that means basically is deaths before the age of 75, and they look at the number of years associated with that. So in other words, if someone were to die at 74, that would be considered 1 lost year of life. If someone died at 65, that would be 10 years of lost life. We had 8,700 years of lost life in 2015. The rest of the state, it was at 6,800. Okay, so we were way above the state average. And then if you combine that with the fact that we have 20% more of our population obese than the rest of the state, the 2 and 2 kind of go together.
Right. Now let's talk about those areas of improvement. As you mentioned, one of them, the main one, adult obesity, is a major factor. There is physical inactivity and access to exercise activities, food environment index, and other behaviors including smoking, alcohol, and alcohol-impaired driving. What is it going to take for the people of Jacksonville to really take a hold of this initiative and get healthy?
And I think it's multiple. There are multiple ways to do this. And obviously, Michelle is helping us get the word out. And it's our job to try to encourage people to do it the right way as a medical society, and that's what we're doing. And so there are multiple things. You mentioned obesity, physical inactivity, and access to exercise or physical activity equipment. And here in Jacksonville, we're definitely in the wrong direction, the wrong side of even, with obesity and physical inactivity. But surprisingly, and I didn't know this until I looked at the data, 93% of the residents in Duval County live within 1 mile of something that is associated with physical activity, whether it's a sidewalk, a swimming pool, a YMCA, a baseball field, a park, or the beach. You know, so a very large percentage of our population has access to something that can make them healthy. They just may not even know about it.
Yeah.
And it's our job and Michelle's job to make that, make people aware of that.
And on top of that, we live in Florida.
Right.
I mean, the weather's beautiful.
Right.
This is the state that you want to do this. Michelle, give us some specifics about how people can really become a part of the Mission 1 Million initiative.
Well, it's a huge initiative. It's more than just losing 1 million pounds. The mayor came out yesterday and said, we are going to lose 1 million pounds in Jacksonville. Well, we're encompassing the entire 904. If you live in Baker County, Nassau, St. John's, Clay, you're a part of this as well. And we want everyone to be involved. And it's not just about losing weight. It's about setting missions. Maybe you want to go run with your run club 1 million miles, or you want to walk 1 million steps. There's many different factors that go into it. Maybe your workplace wellness group wants to lose 1 million pounds collectively. You know, there are so many things you can do with this. And to just get people on board with it, they'll find that the 904mission1million.com website is a full boat of resources. We're directing people who might not otherwise know where to go to the YMCA that's near their house, to the American Heart Association that, you know, maybe they have heart disease that runs in their family and they don't know what exercises they can even do. As a resource, we can provide that. We're not going to have the Mission 1 Million 5K. There's plenty of those out there. You can go run a marathon or a 5K every weekend around here. It's beautiful. We're not going to have the Mission 1 Million cookbook. We're not going to tell you when, where, how to exercise. If you just want to go out and walk around the block with your dog, more power to you. We want you to do that.
Right. And, you know, sometimes you just need that encouragement, and it's refreshing to see the city just jumping in and kind of being, I heard you say earlier, like the personal trainer for each person, and that's exactly what this is.
And that's exactly as Michelle was talking about. People don't enjoy going to work out, and that's why people don't do it. But if your employer is encouraging you to do it, if your neighbors encourage you to do it, and you're competing with other people, you're much more likely to follow through with that plan. And if you record your weight and you watch it go down, I think you get more positive feedback that way as well.
Well, thank you for being with us here today. But so how will this fit into the mayor's other plans for the city of Jacksonville? We invite you to stay with us. In just a moment, we're going to be joined by former Lieutenant Governor Jennifer Carroll, our News for Jax political analyst, on This Week in Jacksonville.
This is Pastor R.J. Washington of the Titus Harvest Dome. Join us on Channel 4 every Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. We're going to have a God time. Yes.
Nissan's family of crossovers with intuitive all-wheel drive. See driving in a more confident light. For a limited time, lease Rogue, just $189 per month, or save up to $1,250. Take on Mother Nature. Shop ChooseNissan.com.
You know, with teeth on a day, all on fours or high bridge techniques, you only get a temporary set of teeth, and then many visits, and months later, you finally get permanent teeth. Today, I'd like to introduce you to the D4 Ultra Express. With the D4 Ultra Express, you truly get permanent teeth anchored by dental implants in just 24 hours. So you can get permanent teeth with these older procedures in 7 months. Or with the D4 Ultra Express, you can really have permanent teeth in 24 hours. Call us today for your free consultation.
We have the chance to forever honor our military men and women by bringing home the USS Adams and creating the state's only naval warship museum.
Here's a fun way to support the USS Adams Museum. Buy a $10 ticket for a rubber boat, and you'll be entered in the April 12th Race to the Boat Show. Get all the details at USSAdams.com.
Make tomorrow awesome with Xfinity TV from Comcast. Right now, you can get Xfinity TV for just $19.99 a month for 12 months with Xfinity On Demand included. Call 1-800-566-8080 today. Xfinity On Demand delivers thousands of hit shows, top movies, and more at no additional cost. So you can catch up on the latest episodes of TV's hottest shows anytime, anywhere. Switch to Xfinity TV for just $19.99 a month for 12 months with Xfinity On Demand included. Plus, ask how you can add HBO, Showtime, or Starz and enjoy award-winning TV shows and movies at home and on the go. There's no term contract and no early termination fee. Plus, it's all backed by our 30-day money-back guarantee. So it's risk-free. Tomorrow could be awesome if you call today. Call 1-800-566-8080. That's 1-800-566-8080. Xfinity, the future of awesome.
0600, Jacksonville. One Navy wife, one 3-year-old, one sailor husband serving across the seas. That's why when Kristen gets up, she checks the News 4 Jax app and turns on Channel 4. Richard tracks weather, so she knows how to dress her little one for school. Crystal gets this busy second-grade teacher to work on time, all from a news team that won't waste her time. Oceans away, protecting your freedom happens. In Jacksonville, the morning show makes mornings happen.
Welcome back to This Week in Jacksonville. Jennifer Carroll now joins us, our News 4 Jax political analyst. And you heard our conversations earlier about Duval County didn't do that well in the county-by-county health comparisons. What is your thought? What are your thoughts on the roles of local government in efforts like this? Do they need to be involved in this? Is it necessary? Is it needed?
Well, it could help in that in some communities do not have sidewalks. So it's very difficult for people to get out and walk. And we've seen a number of these car incidents that have hit pedestrians throughout this year and even into last year. So that is one place where government can play a role. But to tell people that they have to get out and do these exercises is not the role of government, but create park space, create walk space, create safe zones where people are able to get out and do the exercises if they want. With Jacksonville, it's kind of a challenge because it's such a large landmass city. So it's very difficult for people to really go from community to community and have these abilities to exercise. And then when you work all the way in Duval or you work in Green Coast Springs or something and then have to drive home and spend another hour or so on the road, by the time you get home, you don't want to exercise.
Yeah, that's very understandable. That happens to us all. Boy, so the day after this news conference, Mayor Curry joined us on the morning show. He spoke with Bruce Hamilton about how this initiative fits in with other priorities for the city.
I know a lot of people sit back and I can't afford to go to the gym. And you know what? Yeah, I know that there are parks here. I know that I can go walking on the sidewalk, but I don't feel safe in my community. How do you respond to them to say, you know what? We want to change that culture too?
Absolutely. Well, the top priority that I laid out when I ran for mayor and since I've been elected is public safety. So what I've been doing is giving the sheriff the resources he needs to hire the police officers that he needs. He needs more. The police force was cut in recent years. And also investing in at-risk youth. Neighborhoods that don't feel safe, we've got to fix that. And that is we're going to do that with my priority saying public safety. Every neighborhood, every zip code ought to have access to the sidewalks and the quality of life that I have.
So you heard the mayor there tying it all back into public safety. Does that help keep this as a front burner project for the mayor and for the city? Does that help?
It could help because some people are very afraid to go out of their home, no matter if they're exercising or not. But that was something that he campaigned upon to keep our city safe and reducing crime. We haven't seen that level reduced yet, but hopefully the initiatives that the mayor and the sheriff will put in place, plus along with the help of the community, the community have to have an active participation to make sure that we can have our community safe. But that goes hand in glove with regards to having an area that people will feel comfortable to go out and exercise, particularly with the weather becoming so nice these days.
Right. Okay, let's stick with city politics. This week we learned that the mayor is hoping to get this pension rescue tax on the ballot for voters August 30th for the primary, instead of waiting until November. The city council will have the final say, but do you think it's a good idea to get this issue on the ballot as soon as possible in August?
The city does have an issue with regards to this pension fund. I'm surprised that the mayor has chosen to go by way of a tax to address it, particularly when Mayor Delaney placed this tax in position. It was for our roads and infrastructure. Now it has morphed into something else. We'll see how the voters decide to extend this tax, because it seems like once you put a tax on the ballot and it passes, it never goes away.
Does the August election bring in a different group of voters as compared to November?
The August election will probably bring in a smaller amount of voters that we've seen in the primary election that we just went through, and a smaller amount of voters that we will see in the general election. So it may be problematic for the measure to pass, because I believe that referendums now have to pass with 60%, so the threshold is a little higher. If you have a lower voter turnout and people really don't understand what they're voting for, it could be problematic for the initiative to pass.
Do you think that the mayor has enough time to sell it to the people? Really only 4 months or so to get the message out and to really get the people to bite on it.
He can have the time if he has the money and resources. When Mayor Delaney pushed the first initiative, he had a lot of time and a lot of money and really sold to the public the need for it as to how it's going to benefit all the communities in the Northeast Florida area. Now we have a smaller segment of population, which is just Duval County for the Fine Pension Fund. How is that going to resonate with people when they're hurting for their homes and their jobs and paying for their car note, to say increase my tax some more so I can help you with a budget item that you should have taken care of with cutting your spending and increasing opportunities for tax base to come into the Northeast Florida area. So he may have a challenge in selling that, particularly the times that we're having now with people struggling. He will have to say this will benefit the city by not having this burden, tax burden, on them moving forward, because if we don't do this, then we'll have to increase taxes someplace else. But it's certainly an oxymoron to see a Republican pushing a tax initiative to help with a financial burden.
We'll see what happens with that. Well, the Northeast is dealing with some chilly weather this weekend, but the presidential campaigns are heating up with the next primaries just around the corner. Jennifer Carroll stays with us as we turn to the national political scene. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
When you've been injured in an accident, it's very important to call Carroll and Harrell early in the process. We will sit down and talk with you for free. Ultimately, our goal is to get you the justice that you deserve.
Harrell and Harrell, don't settle for less than you deserve.
At Beaver Toyota St. Augustine, we make buying a used car
#easy.
It's what we do. And that's why we stock so many low-mileage, one-owner used vehicles.
#huge selection.
Choose from over 100 Camrys and Corollas starting under $10,000.
#wow priced.
Every used car we sell comes with our exclusive 5-day exchange policy.
#peace of mind.
Only at Beaver Toyota, the big Toyota store in St. Augustine. #we're here to wow you.
Has the jury reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
Not guilty.
Yawn talking. It's reached epidemic proportions. What causes yawn talking? It could be your old mattress. Because after 8 years, mattresses lose comfort and contain sweat, dead skin, and dust mites. So quit yawn talking.
Case dismissed.
Check your mattress tag. If it's over 8, it's time to replace. At America's #1 choice for sleep, Mattress Firm.
Look, the way I see it, you've got a choice to make. You can spend a lot of time and money replacing all of your teeth with something that doesn't quite feel right, worrying if they're even going to last. Or you can choose Highbridge. They look, feel, and function like your real teeth. If I were you, I wouldn't gamble on this one. I'd check out Highbridge. It's a big decision. Call your Highbridge certified doctor today. They'll answer all of your questions. Highbridge, the simple way to a lasting smile.
Question for both candidates. Do you value large selection when shopping for an RV?
Yes, yes, yes. We expect to choose from a huge inventory.
There's no debate when it comes to the best RV selection. Everyone is shopping and buying at Dick Gore's RV World.
I'm Dick Gore, and I approve this message.
Did you guys see there's a brand new Toyota dealership right over there? How did we miss this?
Ernie Palmer Toyota is brand new. Well, sort of. Our fantastic new dealership is up and running. It's bigger and better than ever. More cars, more deals. And now, Ernie Palmer Toyota is home of the lifetime warranty.
How long have you guys been here? About 35 years.
You're gonna love the feel of an Ernie deal. That's why Jacksonville loves Ernie Palmer Toyota.
Channel 4 is a proud sponsor of the March for Babies. Form a team and raise money to help support the life-saving work of the March of Dimes. Register at marchforbabies.org and meet us on April 23rd at Everbank Field, Lot E.
Next ET, is Jennifer Aniston ready to be a mom? Then how GMA's Ginger Z balances her baby, that handsome hubby, and dancing. Plus, couples news from the MTV Movie Award. Next ET.
Monday at 7 on Channel 4. You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
Welcome back. We're now 9 days away from the next presidential primary, and it's the second biggest prize in terms of delegates still up for grabs. New York voters go to the polls on the 19th, and Republican and Democratic candidates have been swinging through the Empire State, stumping for votes, and in some cases, taking verbal swings at their opponents. 2016 presidential hopefuls hitting the streets of the Big Apple. Ted Cruz in Brooklyn making matzah. Secretary Clinton attempting to drum up support among subway riders and fending off Senator Bernie Sanders' attacks.
Are you qualified to be president of the United States when you're raising millions of dollars from Wall Street, an entity whose greed, recklessness, and illegal behavior help destroy our economy?
Sanders refusing to back down Thursday.
I'm not going to get beaten up. I'm not going to get lied about. We will fight back.
Clinton trying to take the high road at a stop in front of Yankee Stadium.
I don't know why he's saying that, but I will take Bernie Sanders over Donald Trump or Ted Cruz anytime.
Tensions in both races ratcheting up, with Ted Cruz continuing to defend his New York values comment, slamming New York's politicians and Donald Trump.
Our friends in the media tell us that Donald Trump is unstoppable in New York State. And they really want to see a general election between two New York liberals who agree on Washington being the center of the universe.
John Kasich looking to capitalize on the backlash, touring a deli in the Bronx.
How about a little cheese on the top of this? Mamma mia.
Both his campaign and Super PAC launching full-scale attack ads aimed at Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz sneered at our New York values.
New Yorkers aren't stupid, Ted.
Donald Trump seizing on his home court advantage.
This is home. It's great to be home.
Backing out of scheduled stops in California and Colorado to take closed-door meetings with his staff. And News for Jack's political analyst Jennifer Carroll joins us now once again to talk about all the things that have been happening in the world of politics. You know, since Bernie Sanders' attacks on Hillary Clinton, he's kind of reversed his position and said, okay, she is qualified and more qualified than any of the Republican candidates, similar to what Clinton said about him. So they've kind of backed off a little bit. But has Sanders' recent wins impacted the rhetoric in the Democratic race?
It has given Hillary Clinton some room to pause and see what's going on. Why is she losing out the women vote to a self-described socialist, an older male? Why is she losing out the under 40 to an older male socialist? And it should have been hers to be the taking at this juncture. So it's really, Bernie Sanders has made Hillary Clinton move a little bit to the left, which she's a bit uncomfortable with. She'd rather run in the middle of the road to really capture people. But her negatives are really inflamed that it's causing her to really have struggles now on this campaign trail. But she's going to win anyway. She has a super delegate, so even if he ties her or surpasses her with the regular delegates, she has a super delegates that will take her over.
And speaking about that rhetoric and mudslinging, I mean, on the Republican side, Trump and Cruz were going at it, I mean, real hard and heavy for a while there. And it seemed to, we're not hearing as much, rhetoric. But is it smart for them to continue to go after each other's throats or not?
Because now Donald Trump is at a different stage in the campaign. What brought him to this juncture is not going to take him over the threshold, because now he has his solid supporters that are 32 to 35%. He needs to bring more people into the fold. So that's women, that's college educated, across the board. So now he needs to step up his game, talk about policy, and come across looking more presidential. It cannot be this rancor between the candidates anymore. He has to look and focus on himself and what he's going to do for this country, because his negatives are also high up there. Second to him is Ted Cruz, but people are afraid of him because they fear that he's going to say something and mouth off to some leader that's going to cause us to go into a nuclear war or something. So he needs to come out and say why he's more presidential, what he plans on doing to address policy.
Looking forward to July. We've heard a lot about the potential for rule changes in the convention and the potential to keep Donald Trump from winning the nomination. But Trump has been taking some steps of his own. He's taken on the new Republican strategist, Paul Manafort, as the convention manager, putting him in charge of collecting those delegates. What does this change signal in the Trump campaign?
It shows that they're taking it more seriously. And they know that they cannot continue on a staff of just a handful of people, that they do have to bring in some policy people, right? Just this past week, they went and brought in their kitchen cabinet to talk about foreign policy and our military and how the response to ISIS will be. And he has some very top brass people, I'm talking about military people, on that his kitchen cabinet there. So it's showing that he's taking this race a little bit more seriously. People talked about a brokered convention, which a brokered convention is when the party people make deals with the delegates to bring in somebody else to get them elected. That hasn't occurred since 1912 with Teddy Roosevelt, when they tried to get him to run against Taft. And now we have from 1976 and before that 1948 with Ronald Reagan and Mr. Ford. So here we go again in 2016. Will the Republican Party change the rules to preclude Ted Cruz or Donald Trump from coming into the RNC convention and taking it away from them? Would we see a major backlash? Probably would.
All right, well, we appreciate you being here this morning. Your insight always appreciated here at Channel 4. This Week in Jacksonville airs each Sunday morning at this time. Next Sunday morning, we're planning a send-off for the St. Augustine Police Chief and introducing you to his successor. That and more on This Week in Jacksonville here on air and online at news4jax.com. I'm Tarek Miner. Thanks for joining us this morning.
For Jax, we're always covering the news, even when we're not on TV. Stay informed, on the go, and online at news4jax.com.